I never wanted to inherit my grandmother's house. The moment I stepped onto those creaking stairs, memories of childhood visits flooded back. That peculiar musty smell, the way shadows seemed to linger longer than they should, and the weight of unspoken family secrets that hung in the stale air. But here I was, the last surviving member of the Palmer family, standing in this decaying Victorian mansion that had witnessed 4 generations of tragic deaths. Going through Grandmother Eleanor's belongings, I found her journal hidden in the bottom drawer of her mahogany desk. The leather was cracked with age, its pages yellow and brittle. As I began reading, my hands trembled. The entries dated back to 1962, when my great-grandfather died. What I discovered made my blood run cold. It wasn't just bad luck that plagued our family. It was something far more sinister. The photographs told a story that none of us knew. In every generation, the oldest child died before their 40th birthday, always in the house, always in what appeared to be accidents. Great-grandfather Thomas fell down the basement stairs. My Aunt Catherine drowned in the clawfoot bathtub. My father Robert was found in the garden shed, apparently from carbon monoxide poisoning. And now Grandmother Eleanor found at the bottom of those same basement stairs just 2 months ago. The basement held the answers. Eleanor's journal mentioned it repeatedly. The original foundation stones, brought over from our ancestral home in Scotland. She had done extensive research, tracing our family's history back to 1892, when my great-great-grandfather Malcolm Palmer fled Scotland after a land dispute. But it wasn't just any dispute. He had stolen those foundation stones from his neighbor's property, stones that were said to be cursed by the blood of a family he had wronged. I spent weeks documenting every death, every accident. The pattern was undeniable. The garden shed where my father died had been built using some of those same foundation stones. The basement steps that claimed 2 lives were constructed from them. Even the bathroom where Aunt Catherine drowned had those stones in its walls. Each death occurred exactly 39 years and 3 months after their birth, almost to the day. The local newspaper archives revealed more dark secrets. Before Malcolm Palmer fled Scotland, a family of 4 had died mysteriously on his neighbor's property, all found dead in their beds, no signs of violence. The neighbor accused Malcolm of murder, but he escaped to America before he could be questioned. He brought those stones with him, claiming they were for good luck. If only he had known. I discovered the symbols carved into the basement stones by accident. They were subtle, worn by time, but unmistakably deliberate. My research led me to a Scottish historian who specialized in ancient Celtic rituals. The symbols, he said, were part of a blood curse, a ritual of vengeance that bound future generations to pay for the sins of their ancestors. Each death was a payment, but the debt would never be fully paid. I hired a construction crew to remove every single foundation stone, but 3 workers had mysterious accidents on the first day. One fell from a ladder and broke his leg. Another's equipment mysteriously malfunctioned, nearly crushing him. The third developed an unexplainable fever and had to be hospitalized. The crew quit, spreading rumors about the cursed Palmer house. As I studied our family tree, I made a chilling realization. I was approaching my 39th birthday. 3 months and 12 days remained until I would reach the same age that had claimed every eldest child in my family for 4 generations. The house seemed to know it too. The creaks grew louder, the shadows darker, the air heavier with each passing day. I tried selling the house, but every potential buyer backed out at the last minute. Some reported feeling inexplicably ill during viewings. Others said they felt watched. One realtor refused to step foot on the property again after she was locked in the basement for hours, despite the door having no lock. The house wouldn't let go of its last Palmer. With time running out, I made a desperate decision. I would document everything and take matters into my own hands. I hired an excavation company under false pretenses and supervised as they dug up every cursed stone under the cover of darkness. Each stone was numbered, photographed, and loaded onto trucks. I had them transported to a quarry hundreds of miles away, where they would be crushed and used in highway construction scattered across the country. The house feels different now. The weight of generations of tragedy has lifted somewhat, but I'm not taking any chances. I'm writing this account as evidence of what the Palmer family endured and as a warning to others who might unknowingly build their homes with cursed stones. Tomorrow, I leave this place forever. I've purchased a small cabin in Alaska, as far from any Palmer residence as I can get. My 39th birthday is in 2 days. I don't know if destroying and scattering the stones was enough to break the curse. I don't know if distance will save me. But I do know that I'm the last of the Palmers, and if the curse claims me too, at least it will end here. No more children will inherit our dark legacy. No more innocent lives will be claimed by my great-great-grandfather's sins. Sometimes the only way to break a cycle of tragedy is to ensure there's no one left to continue it. The red string started appearing in our family photographs in 1985, the year before my Aunt Lisa disappeared. At first, it was subtle, just a thin crimson line at the edge of a frame, like a light leak or a processing error. But as I dig through these old albums now, I can see how it grew more prominent with each passing year, weaving through our documented history like a warning we all ignored. My mother called it my obsession when I started connecting the dots. But she didn't see what I saw, how every female in our family born under a harvest moon had vanished without a trace. Lisa in '86, cousin Rebecca in '97, my sister Sarah in 2008, and now my own daughter Emma was approaching her 13th harvest moon. The pattern was undeniable, and the red string in our photos seemed to be marking its targets. Our family farm in Nebraska had been the center of it all. That's where Lisa was last seen, walking toward the cornfield one autumn evening. The police found nothing but her red hair ribbon, pristine and perfectly knotted, lying in the middle of a crop circle. They blamed teenage rebellion, said she probably ran away to the city. But the same pattern repeated with Rebecca and Sarah, each disappearing near harvest time, each leaving behind a single red item. I found my grandmother's steamer trunk in the attic last week, its brass latches green with age. Inside, beneath layers of yellowed newspapers and moth-eaten clothes, I discovered a stack of letters that made my blood run cold. They were from my great-grandmother to her sister, dating back to 1932. She wrote about the family business, how they had secured their fortune by making deals with wealthy men seeking to dispose of unwanted wives and daughters. The newspaper clippings told the rest of the story. Dozens of missing women cases across 3 counties, spanning nearly a century, all of them last seen near our family's property. The police never connected the dots because the disappearances happened years apart, and my great-grandparents were pillars of the community, known for their generous donations to local law enforcement. It took me months to find the tunnel entrance. Hidden beneath the old grain silo, a narrow passage led deep underground. The walls were lined with red string, now black with age, woven into intricate patterns that seemed to mark the way. My flashlight beam revealed scratches in the stone, not random marks, but dates. The most recent was 2008, the year Sarah vanished. The ledger was exactly where the letters said it would be, sealed in a rusted metal box behind a loose stone. Each entry was written in red ink, names, dates, and amounts. Thousands of dollars in old money, paid to my great-grandparents for their services. They weren't just disposing of unwanted women, they were selling them. The red string was their signature, their brand, marking each transaction with a crimson flourish. In my great-grandmother's sewing room, untouched since her death in 1965, I found the source of the red string. Dozens of spools, hand-dyed with a mixture she made herself. The recipe was still there, written in the margins of her journal. The main ingredient made me gag. Blood from each victim, mixed with red dye and cotton thread. A literal bloodline connecting their fates to our family's dark legacy. The harvest moon is rising tonight, and Emma is locked safely in her room at her father's house, 3 states away. But I'm here at the farm, waiting. The red string has appeared in every photo of Emma since her birth, growing thicker and more prominent with each passing year. The pattern won't end until someone breaks it, and I know what I have to do. I've sent everything I found to the FBI, the ledger, the letters, the photos, and most importantly, the DNA evidence. The red string wasn't just a signature, It was a trophy collection, each spool containing traces of their victims. Modern science can reveal what local police in 1932 could never have discovered. The truth about our family's wealth is about to be exposed. I can see them coming now, police lights flashing in the distance. The farm is burning, and with it, the last traces of our cursed legacy. The tunnels are filled with concrete. The sewing room is ash, and every spool of red string is evidence in what will become one of the biggest serial killer cases in American history. Some will call me a traitor to my family, but they don't understand. Sometimes loyalty to justice matters more than loyalty to blood. Emma turned 13 last week. The red string has vanished from our family photos, and for the first time in generations, a harvest moon rises without claiming a victim. They say the devil is in the details, but so is salvation. It took 5 generations for someone to look closely enough at those family photographs to see the red string for what it really was. Not a supernatural curse, but a marker of human evil, passed down through the bloodline until someone finally had the courage to cut it. I was raised in a family of taxidermists. For 5 generations, the Blackwood name has been synonymous with the art of preserving life's final moments. Our work sits in museums across the country, perfect specimens frozen in time, each carrying a small brass plate with our signature. But what the museums don't know, what nobody knew until now, was the true nature of our most private collection. The basement of our family museum holds secrets that would destroy our legacy. Behind the public displays of perfectly preserved wildlife, behind the awards and accolades, lies a private gallery that has consumed one member of each generation of our family. We don't speak of the missing, we don't acknowledge the pattern, but every decade the collection grows by one carefully crafted piece. My grandfather's journal tells the story of how it began. In 1921, Harold Blackwood, my great-grandfather, developed an obsession with perfecting his preservation technique. He believed that capturing the exact moment of death would create the most lifelike specimens. This pursuit of perfection drove him to experiment with methods that went far beyond ethical boundaries, starting with animals, but eventually leading to something far more sinister. The preservation formula was his masterpiece, a precise mixture of chemicals that could maintain organic matter indefinitely without decay. The base recipe is still used by museum conservators today, but they don't know about the additional ingredients Harold discovered, the ones that required fresh specimens and unspeakable methods to obtain. Each batch had to be prepared under specific conditions, using components that would horrify any legitimate scientist. The pattern emerged slowly. Every 10 years, almost to the day, a Blackwood would become obsessed with perfecting the formula. They would spend months in the workshop, experimenting with new techniques, pushing boundaries. Then they would disappear, leaving behind only their magnum opus, a single perfect specimen that would join the private collection. The family never reported these disappearances. We simply archived their work and continued the business. I found the photographic evidence in my father's darkroom. Each disappearance was meticulously documented, not the act itself, but the before and after. Clinical images of specimens in various stages of preservation, each labeled with a date and a Blackwood name. My father's photos stopped 3 months ago, right after he completed his masterpiece. The police think he's missing. I know better. The tools tell their own story. Each generation added their own innovations to the process. Harold created the basic formula. His son Thomas developed new injection techniques. My grandfather perfected the positioning framework. My father revolutionized the tissue preservation process. Each advance brought us closer to perfection, but at a terrible cost. The obsession consumed them all, turning them first into masters, then into materials. The collection grows methodically. 12 specimens now, each more perfect than the last. They sit in temperature-controlled cases, arranged chronologically, each bearing a small brass plate with a name and date. The museum board thinks they're rare animal specimens, too delicate to display publicly. They've never noticed how each piece shares subtle Blackwood features, the distinctive nose, the long fingers, the auburn hair. The formula is the key to everything. I've spent months studying it, trying to understand its pull on my bloodline. The chemistry is complex but not supernatural. The obsession it creates, however, is something else entirely. It's as if the process itself demands completion, drawing each generation toward perfection until they become part of their own grand design. I can feel it calling to me now, urging me to make my own improvements. Under the microscope, the truth becomes clear. The preserved tissue samples show signs of mutation, as if the formula doesn't just preserve, it transforms. Each generation's improvements have made it more potent, more invasive. The specimens aren't just preserved, they're evolved into something that's neither fully dead nor traditionally alive. My father's last notes suggest he was on the verge of understanding this when he became specimen 12. I've converted my workshop into a modern laboratory, combining old techniques with new technology. The formula can be synthesized now, its effects analyzed and understood. I'm close to breaking the pattern, to understanding what drives the obsession without succumbing to it. But time is running out. 10 years have passed since my father's specimen joined the collection. I can feel the pull growing stronger. I'm documenting everything, preserving the evidence of our family's dark legacy in a way that has nothing to do with taxidermy. Digital records, DNA analysis, chemical breakdowns, everything needed to expose the truth. I've sent copies to multiple scientific institutions, timed to arrive after the next disappearance. The Blackwood collection will finally be recognized for what it is, not a testament to preservation artistry, but evidence of generations of methodical madness. The formula is complete now, more perfect than ever before. I've solved the mystery of its transformative properties, understood its true purpose. But unlike my ancestors, I won't let it consume me. This morning, I destroyed the family workshop and our private collection. Let them study the ashes. Let them find the truth in the ruins. Some legacies deserve to burn, and some family traditions need to end. I won't become specimen 13. The Blackwood preservation technique dies with me.